Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? Ask questions, or else we never know where the class is going to go when people ask questions.
Stuart, would you talk about how God is in everything I see?
Can you repeat that, please?
Would you talk about how God is in everything I see?
I mean, that's, what do you, excuse my laughter, but I mean, Shakur, that's a question that I don't know if there's an answer to that question. Because how do I know what you see? I mean, when you look out at the world from a conscious place, a highly developed inner life, when you have a connection with higher energy, nobody has to explain this to you. You really see, the miracle of God all around you. So it doesn't have to be explained to you what you see. It's just, I mean, it's really a product of the depth of inner work that a human being does, how conscious they are, how much they've evolved. And it's not play acting. People, namaste, namaste, all this kind of stuff, pretending they're Hindu, whatever. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a simple realization that whatever you see around you is sacred. Now, that can't come about by putting on a costume. It comes about because a person develops such a powerful inner life, that they begin to recognize the sacred nature of living, how sacred life is, how every living, human, animal, insect is a manifestation of higher energy. I mean, there's a religion in India called Jainism, and it's against their religion to step on an ant. It's a living manifestation of God. So I can't answer that question, Shakur. Only you can answer that question. How deeply are you working in yourself? How conscious have you become inside? How, what kind of an inner life have you built that enables you, after the meditation, not to get caught off from the sacred nature of living? And the incredible thing is that everything and the way we see the world is telling us exactly how evolved we are. It's a mirror. It's a mirror of ourselves, what we see in the external world. And it tells us exactly how evolved we are. Now, that's not a negative thing. We need something to constantly remind us that work has to be done on ourselves. Life is the teacher. I say this many times. I've said it before. I am not a guru. My job is to train people, to get strong enough in themselves that they can sit in front of the real guru, which is life. The sacred nature of life, reminding us every day how evolved we are. And instead of being insulted by it and feeling bad because sometimes life tells us some pretty bad things, recognize it. It's teaching us that we have to grow. We have to develop an inner life. We have to get stronger than the dribble that runs around in our heads, the emotional quicksand that swamps people. And life is a wonderful teacher. And it'll tell us every second exactly how evolved we are. So I can't answer that question. Only you can answer that question. And if you'll take a good look in the mirror, which is life, you'll see what you need to work on. Instead of running away from it and hiding from it, and building some kind of paralyzed inner world where you're so afraid of everything. Mostly people build that kind of inner world because when they look out at life, they see themselves. And it scares the shit out of them. Instead of saying, okay, this is what I got to work against. This is what I have to grow. I have to build inside myself a system that is truly strong enough and profound enough to recognize the sacred nature of life. The real guru. Not Stuart Perrin or Swami this one and Yogi that one and, you know, this priest and that rabbi. I mean, their job, every one of them, their job is to teach people how to do what I'm saying. Not to be all important sitting on a throne and making everybody believe they know more than everyone else. It's all bullshit. The real job of a teacher is training people to build an inner life so that they can ultimately recognize the sacred nature of living and how the real guru is life itself. So I'm sorry I can't answer your question, but I think there were plenty of answers in what I spoke about. You know, does anyone else have a question they would like?
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
It's about the feeling of anger. We're often taught in that anger is unacceptable, and I think maybe especially women are often trained that way. And how do we learn better to be with that feeling within us? Maybe you have some experience with it.
I have a lot of experience because when I was a teenager into my middle 20s, I was the last angry young man. I was angry about everything. And I recognized a few things after I met Rudy and he started training me in this meditation. First, you know, I wasn't angry at the world. I was angry at myself. I was angry at my inability to deal with all the things that I saw outside myself. And I had yet to recognize that all the things I saw outside of myself were a reflection of me. And I kept hearing Rudy talk about bring the anger into the third chakra. Bring the anger down. It's a very powerful energy. And what's killing you will give you life. It'll open the most greatest depth inside you. And ultimately, by doing that and conditioning yourself to do that, you will master the anger. The anger won't last more than 5 seconds when you have learned to do what I'm saying right now. And that's the work. We all have anger, and sure, there's plenty in this world to be angry about. But really what it's teaching us is we haven't mastered our inner self. We haven't mastered the anger. We haven't learned how to draw it down into the hara and allow it to truly open the very core of our being. It's a really powerful energy, anger. And it can open the core of your being if you bring it down. Also, it's like taming a wild stallion. And if you keep doing it and working on that, eventually it really quiets down. As soon as it comes up, you know exactly what to do with it, and it just goes there. It goes there, and instead of tearing you apart and creating all kinds of insane situations in your life, it builds the third chakra. It gives you strength inside. It gives you balance inside. And ultimately, it gets you to a place, you know, where you can master your anger. Now, this is not easy to do. This is hard work. But I've been through it. And I can tell you that is a joy in my life that I can master my anger that way. Because when I was younger, man, that anger used to get me into so much trouble. So much trouble. And it kept me from doing anything valuable in the world. So I suggest, if you haven't already started doing this, try it, work on it. Don't feel that you're a failure if the first 20 times you do it. It doesn't, you have to it's like training a dog. It's like a Pavlovian dog, you got to train it. And then when it hears the bell, it comes, you know? It's the same thing with anger.
And it seems that most people are not experiencing your anger. If you are having it, you think they're feeling it, but they just seem to be involved in their own world.
Their own anger and their own crap. And unless you verbalize it at somebody specifically, then they'll feel it. And then it's going to come back to you, you know, like a tsunami. Because how many people have training in what I'm talking about? Almost nobody. And the only way people, you know, deal with anger is fighting with anger. But if you have that training and you really develop that in yourself, it's an amazing tool that you don't get angry at people. You say, oh, you know what? What does it matter, you know?
Or are you saying that you don't let it out? Because I think the feeling can arise. It's just a feeling. It's the same as
you love. Not because you bring it into the hara and it dissolves and it really develops the foundation of your being. And that enables you to open your heart. When you're full of anger, it's very difficult to open your heart. And then what comes out of you is a whole different person. Love, compassion, you know?
Thank you.
I mean, this is a very profound aspect of this work that I teach, that Rudy taught. How to master anger, how to master depression, how to master guilt, fear. All of these things can be mastered if you learn how to draw those energies into the hara and turn them into chi. And that's part of the training. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask?
When you do, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
When you do that, Stuart, is that with an accompanying breath in the drawing in, or not necessarily?
Well, not necessarily, but if you can, while you're angry, you're so tight inside, it's hard to breathe. You know, so it's will that does it. But then once you begin to do it, you can take a breath down there, and that opens that chakra and allows the anger to dissipate. Otherwise, you know, it eats you up. It makes you tighter and tighter inside, you know, and it really eats up all your energy. But just doing that, I'm telling you, look, I don't think anybody here knew me when I was 25 years old. I was like, so you have to take it on my word, you know? I mean, I was quite a character. And I was angry at the world. And I learned from Rudy how to do what I'm talking about. I didn't know about this. He kept repeating it. And I started working on it. Shit, I said, this works. I mean, there's all my famous story about when I worked in a restaurant and there was a bartender there that he and I couldn't even look at each other without getting into an argument. Never forget this, you know? And I used to hear Rudy talking about this all the time. External world reflects your inner. And I'll never forget standing at the bar and telling another one of the waiters, excuse me, that he was going to meet his girlfriend to go out and have a midnight supper. And I was completely astonished. I said, my God, his girlfriend must be a saint. She's certainly more highly evolved than me if she can spend time with this person and love this person. And from that point on, I began to see him differently. And we never had another fight again. In fact, we even got into conversations and this and that. It was me, it wasn't him. Something had to change in me. And when that thing changed, and God bless his girlfriend, I never met her, but she was like a teacher for me. I became friends with this guy. Made my work much easier. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, sorry.
One of the a feeling that I'm trying to grow past is before I get in front of a large group, my heart starts racing. I get anxiety and fear around my chest. How can I, use some of what you're saying right now to draw the energy down and practice growing past that?
Michael, it's the same exact when you got stage fright. Ask any actor. Yeah. Just before they go out on the stage, they went paralyzed, forgot all their lines, they can't remember. And as soon as you get into what you're doing, it goes, excuse me, that takes the same answer, working to build the third chakra. That will get you over that sensation in yourself. And all that sensation is telling you that this is the work you have to do. I mean, honestly, when I was younger, in New York, I studied acting, and I really never wanted a career in acting, but I was so paralyzed about being in front of a group of people. It used to scare the shit out of me. And here I am in these acting classes with all these professional actors. And some of them I even saw on television, for God's sake, and in the movies, and I had to do scenes. I had to overcome it. I didn't know about this until I met Rudy, how to really do this. But just throwing myself into the situation forced me to learn how to overcome a lot of that fear of being in front of an audience. And I knew that's why I did it. I needed to learn how to get more security in myself. So do your inner work, build that nervousness, bring it down to the third chakra. Good thing would be to just listen to your breathing. That'll calm you down. And then eventually you train yourself not to allow yourself to succumb to that fear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, going back to the questions people asked before, regarding anger, how would you maintain an open heart when you're angry?
You can't. You can't. It's not how do you do it, you can't do it. You're so tight inside and so wrapped up in your right and your righteousness, and you know better than, how do you keep an open heart? The only way to do it is to master the anger. Then it doesn't interfere with you living with an open heart. Because as soon as it comes up, you know exactly what to do with it. You bring it into the third chakra, it becomes chi. And then you can open your heart.
So how do you master your anger if your heart is closed? If your chakra in the heart is closed? It's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, you know, but the first step is to use your will to bring that anger to the chakra below the navel. That's where the will comes in. I am going to use my will in order to build myself, to develop chi. And once you start doing that, then the heart chakra can open because the anger is no longer interfering with it. But until you learn how to do that, it's really hard to keep the heart chakra open.
And you do that with aggressive people as well? You do the same thing?
To do that with what?
With people who are aggressive towards you.
You know, if you don't have that anger inside you and you're not projecting that anger and that kind of chemistry, less and less people get aggressive towards you. You know, it's people just, they respond to what you give them. And you just learn how, you know, when people, a lot of people get very upset because somebody else is, you know, living a spiritual life, they're good, you know, but you know how instantly how to stop it. And just say, no, I don't need this in my life. And you'll begin to see those people just fall away from your life. They'll find other people that they can vampirize, you know, that they can, you know, suck their lives out of them and their energy out of them. We get back exactly what we give off. I mean, look, I was a 25-year-old kid who was angrier than hell, you know. And here I am at this point in my life, sitting in front of all of you. And I see love. I see conscious people working on themselves because that's what's being given off. If I was here angry and yelling at all of you, you'd never show up for class. You know?
Stuart, if you feel tightness in the throat chakra, does that mean you need to work on your communication?
No, I think the best way to do that is just open your heart. Because then that energy can flow down. Also, if you have a lot of headaches and things, and just feel gratitude inside. In 90% of the cases, it will take away that tension. The same thing in the throat chakra. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay.
Just feel gratitude, open your heart. And if you're centered and your heart is open, then all that tension in the throat and the head, it has room to flow down. You know, when I do healings with people, one of the first things I have to do is just, I'm like a vacuum cleaner, sucking all the tension out of them. So that, you know, the energy, the Shakti can come into them and heal them and flow through their system.
It's 9 o'clock.
So that's what I would suggest.
When you vacuum, are you bringing it down to there? I mean, because you don't want to bring that into you.
Some of it I do, but I learned through doing it how to bring it into their chakra system and turn it into chi inside them. I mean, that was a protective device I learned many years ago. Because you're right. I was, I would do healings and have to lie in bed for 6 hours, 3 hours. There was so much poison coming out of people. So I learned how to internalize it inside them, bring it into the hara, and then draw it through the sex to the base of the spine and burn it all up. And this way I wasn't sucking the, but the surface tension, I take and I just bring it down and just burn it up, Does anyone else have a question? I asked Tony to send out a review. Somebody wrote about my book, Leah. I mean, this was written in 1987. And God bless that. I don't even know who it is. It was written before I even published the book. But I sent it out because what you're asking, Brenda, it's in that book, ways to do this. And people, I was hoping that people would get a copy, read it, they would learn something about healing.
Yeah, I read it years and years ago, about 30 years ago.
Well, read it again. It's a new edition, actually. I edited it. I really made it a piece of literature now. A much better book than it was 30 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It has the picture of a young girl on the cover, Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, so just remember on Monday, it's Rudy Samadhi. There'll be a special class. And as I said, this is probably the most sacred day of the year. And it's a day I can't wait until it comes, because between his birthday and his Samadhi, every year is the hardest time of the year for me. Today I could barely, walk across the street. I was so tired, But after that, things lighten up and there's a whole new rebirth of energy. And I always can't wait. But Monday will be that, this month. And also, just finally, I've been talking about this, that, by the middle of March, I will be opening up here to in-person classes with people, healing sessions, all of that kind of stuff. And, people are welcome to come, and just let me know, because, I don't have a huge place here. I can fit maybe 5, 6 people at a time, so I would have to arrange schedules for people to be here, to come and be involved in this. But I want to do it. Things seem to be getting better in this area. So I'm very interested in doing that, because it's the kind of work that enables me to go much deeper than the Zoom classes. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, what can I do when I feel that I'm overwhelmed by the situation? That is too much. I don't.
Who's asking the question?
It's Marcia.
Well, look, Marcia, I hope you were listening to what I talked about the last half hour, because that's exactly what you have to do. You have to really finally get to a place inside yourself where you can master all of that stuff that makes you a victim, that makes you insecure, that makes you unhappy. You have to build that inside. And it takes time to do that, but it really is essential and the key to having a spiritual life, especially in the kind of societies we live in today. We don't live in, little monasteries in the mountains, and, we live in cities, we live in places where there's a lot of tension. And you got to learn how to do that. You have to become, a spiritual warrior. This would be the greatest thing you can do for yourself, because it'll make you overcome all of that weakness in you that you carry around. I can't accept this. I won't live with this. I got to grow. I have to become a stronger, more profound human being. I can't allow, all the nonsense in the world to defeat me all the time. I mean, you certainly have come a distance since I've known you, but I think this is the next step in your life, Monsieur, really. Become a spiritual warrior. And you don't slay other people, you slay all the obstructions in yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, well, there'll be a meditation tomorrow evening. And again, God bless you all for being part of this. And it's a miracle what's going on here. And I can only tell you that your presence here is helping me to learn so much about my own spiritual life. And I have nothing but gratitude for all of you that come. For those of you that support this, and in many different ways, and just the presence of people here is something that to me is like a miracle. So God bless you all, and thank you. And there'll be a class tomorrow evening. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Have a good evening.